Greetings, I am Rob Chapman and welcome to the 6 things I learned at Guitar College. Going to Guitar College was absolutely one of the most exciting things I have ever done in my life. I was 18, I could shred, I could play guitar already, but I didn't know anything at all. I didn't know any theory, I didn't even need the notes. I just kind of could shred scale shapes and things, and it was productive stuff but with no substance. I certainly couldn't write anything. And I've been taking guitar lessons with a teacher in Trowbridge called Matt Evas, and he was a really cool metal playing guy. And he basically said to me, I can't really teach you anything else. You should go to the Guitar Institute, which at the time was kind of one of the first places that taught, was a college that gave you a diploma in playing the guitar. It wasn't even a recognized qualification back then, I'm an alumni of a place in London now, which has changed names many times. And I had a great time. I turned up with absolutely no idea, and I left with a lot more of an idea. So the first thing that kind of happens is this. You walk into a big classroom and all of it was a mixture of guys and girls, various ages. From me, I was 18, and then there were people in their late 20s, 30s, whatever. And everyone goes through a process of evaluation, like who's the best guitarist here, who's the worst, basically where do I stand in the hierarchy of ability at playing. It's a really funny thing. But I think it's important to go through that to realize the first thing that I learned at Guitar College, which is that loads of people can play guitar better than me. Thank God. And loads of people always will play better guitar than me, but it doesn't make one bit of difference. It's not how good you are at playing, it's how good you are at writing music. Because it's like one builder talking to another builder going, I've got this wicked hammer and I've got these awesome bricks and my cement is like primo, and then this other guy just goes and builds a castle. You know what I mean? It's very little to do with how good you are at playing and a lot more to do with the quality of the music you write and whether it's moving and whether you love it and people like listening to it. And what I soon discovered when I went to the Guitar Institute in Acton years and years ago was that I was in the top sort of 10% of players, but I hadn't written anything and I couldn't write and I had no idea how to. I hadn't really lived enough life to have anything to process and turn into writing, but I learned a lot of the tools that helped me to interpret what was in my head by going to Guitar College. I remember at the time being able to play Satch Boogie. I don't think I can even play it now. And Surfing with the Alien. And thinking that it was rock, thinking it was metal. And one of the teachers said to me, that's blues. It's blues with country influence. And I was like, what are you talking about? That is not blues. And he went, no, it's blues. Take a listen to Joe Satriani's lead playing. And lo and behold, you soon start hearing all that. And it's blues, but when you interpret it through modern gear, high distortion, delay, reverb, you soon realize that it takes on a different form. It's this changeable art form. Before I went and studied at college, I had no interest in the blues. And it was Ian Scott, one of the guitar teachers, that really gave me an interest in studying blues guitar, which led me down a whole valley of Jimi Hendrix and a lot more Peter Green, although my dad introduced me to Peter Green. So I have going to Guitar College to thank for really getting me into blues. And I think it's an invaluable piece of information. If you cannot sit down and, you can't have a conversation with the guitar, then with another person playing the guitar, then it's going to be difficult to progress. And something I noticed in common with a lot of really great guitar players is that they really understand the mechanics of blues guitar, or at least can play enough to have a musical conversation. So that's something else I learned. And I don't think, I mean, my path was Metallica, Pantera, Megadeth, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Marty Friedman. I was on the 80s shred rock and metal vibe, and I had no interest in blues, and I don't think I would have refocused and learnt that had I not gone to study. Like I said, before I went to study at college, I really had no idea about theory. And to be really honest with you, I didn't want to learn theory. It certainly wasn't something that interested me. I didn't see the value in it. I mean, I could play, I could shred. So it wasn't even on the radar for me to study anything about modes. But I was really interested in the music of Steve Vai and Dweezil Zappa and Joe Satriani, and in one of my sort of sessions of exposure to learning Flying in a Blue Dream, which was crazy, I learnt that he was using something called the modes. And I'd heard about the modes. I had a, someone said they were a kind of scale. And so, I liked scales. I used to practice scales that my mum would show me or my dad would show me. In fact, the first scale I ever learned was this, which is an E major scale that my dad used for playing classical stuff. I'll show you again. It's kind of a cool shape, split over 2 octaves. It starts on the A string. I think by pure chance, this was actually really useful to learn with the root on the A, because you can drone an E string and then you can play your scale. And you can really hear the scale when you drone the root. And of course, a lot of you will now know that if you just move the root, you get a different scale, different mode. And I was lucky enough that my initial exposure to scales was through a shape that I could drone a bass note under, because at the time, there were no pedals you could use to loop. I used to use a long delay if I wanted to do that, or play over a backing track. Some of the teachers there, Sean Baxter, David Gilminster, taught me about Lydian and Dorian and Mixolydian. And I remember the first time I learnt the Mixolydian scale shape, I was blown away that the first 3 strings were exactly the same. I kind of thought, I don't get it. Why are they the same shape? Why would that work? At the time, the only scales I knew were, and I knew that if you put the first note on the root, you would be playing in key. So if I'm playing an A, I play an A. I don't think I even knew about, flat 5. So I was fascinated with the fact that it was the same, because it meant you could shred. you could get these quick patterns, and you could eliminate notes. Which Jeff Beck was doing really cool things with, where he would take a scale and then, rather than playing, for example, a full major scale, he would miss out one of the notes. And I thought, what an interesting idea, just miss out a note, and then suddenly you got this outline of a scale that you can use for something else. Anyway, Sean Baxter, David Kilminster taught me about modes. and Scott Ian taught me about blues, and I didn't really pay attention to it. I was interested, but I didn't take it on board. It took a long time for me to fully appreciate and absorb the information for it to become practically applicable. And I think that's because the classrooms were rammed. I mean, they were 30 people in a room. The lessons were quick. They were like half an hour, 45 minutes. And then you went out and then you went to the pub and you just got drunk because you could for the first time in my instance. So I didn't really learn it until I left college, which was only a year long, and then got a job and thought, I don't want to have a job. I want to teach guitar instead. That seems more fun and more in the direction I'm going than working at Burger King, which I narrowly escaped. So modes was something that I took on board, but I wish I'd had more time, smaller classrooms, more attention, and I had been able to have more one-to-one with the teachers. I mean, if you know anything about David Kilminster and Sean Baxter, they are great, phenomenal players. In fact, I had one 45-minute private lesson with Sean Baxter, and that was it the entire year. And I had to pay extra for it. You might know that I'm the ambassador for guitar at Waterbear, and something that I love about Waterbear College is that it is all small classrooms, loads of one-to-one mentoring. It's everything that I would have wanted as a student, because I didn't get that. And what I had to do actually was take all my notes and teach myself again after college, because I just didn't get it during the lesson, and then I couldn't keep putting my hand up and going, what's a sharp 4 and why is it different to a flat 5? You know, there were 30 to 40 other people with problems and questions as well. So I'm really glad that Waterbear can provide that to the students. I had a lot of really good teachers when I went to college, and I think the reason probably was that it was the only one at the time. So it had, it was like everyone that was anyone wanted to go there and teach. And having a great teacher, I mean, if you've ever been to school, you'll know if a teacher was bad, you don't want to learn or go to that class. It's just boring. And I was lucky that my teacher for ear training was a guy called Justin Sandico. Justin Guitar on YouTube. He taught me Intervallic ear training. So he was the guy that went, "What's this?" And I would go, "I haven't got a foggiest clue, Justin. I don't know what that is." And then over weeks and weeks and weeks of studying, I learned, this is a 5th, this is a 3rd, this is an octave, this is a 7th. But more than just being able to name the distances between these notes and recognize them when I heard them in a chord or in a scale or in a mode, I understood the story, the interplay between these notes and these distances, and how you could tell a story with them. So for example, a 2 will pull back or want to go to a 1. Or, a 7 will want to go to the octave. Or maybe a 5th will want to go somewhere. Everything wants to move in a certain direction. It's powerful knowledge to understand the hidden intention behind intervallics, and I was thankful that I had Justin Sandico teach me that, because he's a great teacher. Highly recommend you check out his lessons on YouTube, by the way. So intervallic ear training gave me a glimpse into some of the ways that I would write vocal melody and some of the ways that I would write solos, because more often than not with a solo or a vocal melody for sure, it's kind of one note at a time. So you're telling the story with a series of distances between notes. So maybe you'd start on a flat 2, and that's an unusual dissonant kind of weird sound. Doesn't sound very easy, and then you want to give it some ease, so we go from the flat 2 to the 3. And now it's happy, and then we want to go somewhere a bit more heroic. It tells a story as you do it. So that was definitely something that I would never have learned unless I went to music college. Something else I learned at college that was really important for me to learn was that the friends you make at college, they all tend to end up somewhere in the industry. Now that could be a guitar store, or it could be a record label, or it could be anything. You know, they'll be everywhere in the industry, because people that sort of take the vested time to focus their time on learning they're dedicated to it. And so I noticed that all of my classmates are now running record labels, or they're in, you know, marketing at a distribution company, or they've been running a guitar store, or they make jingles for an ad company, or they're in a band and they're signed, or they're, you know, self-released and they're touring. They're all doing something. And making the friends that I did certainly helped me. I mean, the first session work I ever got was from one of my roommates. I released music with another flatmate. I've worked for many of the people who went to college with me, and vice versa. They've worked with me. So it's vitally important to mix up, make friends, and sort of work out who you think you work with well. I'm not suggesting make friends with everyone because they'll benefit you in your career, not from a selfish point of view, but work out who you bond with and who you think you will work with well in the future, because it's really important. It's amazing what can happen when two of the right people meet with that kind of chemical, magical essence that makes whatever they do together work really well. You know what I mean? That is a really important lesson that I learned when I went to college. Having the time to dedicate to playing the guitar and learning music and theory and everything that goes with it is a rare commodity, and it's incredibly valuable. And it's something that as you get older, you will find much less of. Especially, for example, at Walter Bear, if you do a 2-year degree, that's 2 years where you can focus on playing the guitar. Man, you're gonna get your 10,000 hours real quick. I had 1 year, and I thought I'd accomplished a lot. 2 years of just focus on your music with a creative direction, something to aim for, is something that's very hard to get when you have a full-time job or even a part-time job and family, like kids like I've got now. Finding an hour to play guitar for me, believe it or not, is actually quite difficult, and it's my living. So that was something that I will never take for granted, having had that 1 year to literally study guitar, go home, play guitar, buy a dirty takeaway, repeat. That was, for me, such an opportunity. And and there are lots of different kinds of colleges that you can go to now. And I think, you know, that's really good because it means that the market is full of different kinds of places that you could go to. But I think it's really important to make sure that where you go has a culture that is open and inviting and friendly, has an environment that you think you'd like to live around. Because if you're going to spend a couple of years there, if it's a physical thing, or if you're going to spend a couple of years linked to it digitally, it's got to be the right philosophy for you. So I would recommend you take a look at Walter Bear, where everyone's friendly. We're in beautiful Brighton, and the philosophy is openness. You know, we talk about music and we help people to discover their inane, unique musical talent. And the objective is to make you kind of bulletproof, nuclear resistant, so that you can go out, and if you choose to self-release, you'll kind of be equipped for today's modern musical environment. Because I tell you what, it has changed so much from when I was an 18-year-old guy and you were praying that a label would find you. Now you are the label. So you got way more to learn, but way more power. Power to you. Take it easy. Chappers out. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your support. And just to let you know, if you're interested in learning guitar or vocals or more about gear or anything in my crazy random life, I've just launched memberships and you can join by clicking on the link in the show more section just below here. I've got 4 different levels: 8 gauge, 9 gauge, 10 gauge and 11 gauge. They're all different, but they include cool things that allow me to interact more with you. Take it easy. Chappers out.